welcome to another card project here at Just One More Card. I'm starting off today with the Femme frames from the Basic Creative Cut set by Mama Elephant, and I'll be using both of the frames. This is just a piece of leftover basil marshmallow cardstock that I'm going to die cut from, and I want to say, like, for a card like this that is very simple, very like monochromatic, good paper goes a long way. If you have paper that has a certain weight and a nice finish, as the basil marshmallow cardstock, whew, what a name. When you have that, it's a very nice paper, and so it will look really well when you cut from it. And you can see here I'm trying not to put too much of the sticker here onto the card base, because I have to use a shim when I cut it, and if I use too much tape, you will see it. But here you can see I've got beautifully stitched and die cut borders. Now I'm using the Hanging Around stamp set by Clearly Besotted Stamps, which is a company in the UK. And I'm starting off by using the die cut here and cutting this from the front panel. And after I've done this, I'm using a Sizzix circle die. Any circle die or punch will do. I'm just using it afterwards because then I knew exactly where to place it to have the same distance from the ornament once I mount it back on there. I will have a piece of red cardstock in the background, but I want to give it some additional interest. So I'm using this stamp from Hero Arts. It's a beautiful wood grain background stamp. And I'm using also the Hero Arts Unicorn white pigment ink. I'm using a pigment ink because you will see it very well on the cardstock, and I'm always a little bit scared to lift it up because sometimes it just falls back onto the stamp and it looks like a mess. But I did well here, and I've got this beautiful wood grain background. This is the die cut I did earlier directly from the card, and I'm stamping the ornament with Versamark ink. That's why I used my powder here to make sure that this Ranger silver embossing powder will only stick to the areas where the Versamark is. I'm just pouring this over here very generously. The leftovers will go back into the little jar. And then again, the magic of heat embossing. I never get tired of it. It just looks so pretty when the powder turns into this molten, I don't know, wonderfulness. Then I'm using this stamp for the string, and you will see it's not perfect. It doesn't go on perfect, but hey, as Jennifer McGuire said, if you want perfect, then buy a card from Hallmark. We're doing homemade cards, so this is completely fine. Then you have those tiny little round stamps, and those are for decorating those 4 empty spots. So there are die cuts in this set that let you cut those little circles, and I just thought that the dotted pattern looked adorable. And while I had the ink out, I also stamped my sentiment. And remember, we're doing a monochromatic card. That means only one color, and white and silver are considered neutrals. And so the red really shines on this card. I'm using just some thin foam squares to give this a little bit of dimension. But if I would mount this directly onto the red background piece, it would kind of get lost because the red is very intense. So I'm using a piece of vellum to mute the color. Thank you, Nicole McWork, for teaching me how to use vellum. Seriously, she is a genius when it comes to using vellum. I'm adhering the scrap piece of vellum directly on the back of my front panel because I will be 3D mounting the front panel, and the additional distance between the vellum and the red background will mute it even more. That's why I'm not putting it at the very base of the card. To make sure I get the red piece exactly where it needs to go, because it needs to fill up this little strip that goes to the top as well, I'm just holding down the front panel on the bottom with my finger and then sliding the red piece underneath it. It was actually much easier than I had expected. I was surprised it worked that well. I thought I would completely mess up. And now I'm using translucent tape for this. This is just like some cheap translucent tape that I picked up. Here's how it looked in the end. And to get the red liner paper off, it was a pain. Like, seriously, it was such a pain. But in the end, it was totally worth it, because when I 3D mounted this onto my panel, I hope you can see that it's just, you don't see what keeps it up in the air because the tape is translucent, but it gives it some dimension, and it just makes it look kind of magical because it's like it's up in the air, and how did she do that? So yeah, so the investment was really worth it for the translucent tape. That was already the card for today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you come back for more. Bye!